here, so I'm a little disoriented about whether it's Wednesday or not. I hate to like change your week schedule and say it's Wednesday on a Friday. Things that we've got coming up. I know you've been hearing about our Himalayan retreat, and I really want you to know that that is going to be an incredible, relaxing experience, but also incredible learning experience. We'll practice yoga every day. We'll go hiking, eat great food, enjoy a beautiful natural environment, but we'll also learn a lot about not really like the history of yoga, like sit down and learn about the, things that happened then and there, but we'll learn about the origins of the kind of yoga that we teach. So yoga is many thousands of years old, and sometimes we don't really stop to think about that, and that it's more than just poses on a mat. It's breathing exercises, and it's hand poses and all kinds of things. So they'll teach us a little bit about that, and then by the end, I'll help you just relate it to what we learn every day in here and in our teacher trainings. So I hope some of you will consider coming. It's in the middle of September. Let's get going. Start in child's pose. Perfect weather to practice yoga in right now. I know it feels really good in the wintertime, but it's perfect when your body's been warm all day, especially those of you that walked here like Judy did. So settle your hips back to your heels and get comfortable in your own skin right here on your mat in the studio or at home, and begin your breathing. When you do learn about the more historical aspects of the practice of yoga, what you would learn is that there are 8 limbs of yoga, and the poses are just one of the limbs. Another of the limbs is called pranayama, and that refers to breathing exercises. And our vinyasa style of yoga is actually intentionally on the pranayama limb, not necessarily the asana limb. So consider that your breath right now is the thing that we're practicing, and we're just using these poses to challenge the breathing and give us something to learn from. On your next inhale, lift your body up into downward facing dog. Move to the rhythm of your breathing by bending and straightening your knees. See if you can become aware of how your toe knuckles feel, and then the arches of your feet and your heels and your calf muscles and the backs of your knees. Then choose the foundation of the pose by stepping your feet more back or setting your hands and feet more wide. Stable, but with a lot of freedom. Then take a deep breath in, empty all of the air out, look forward and move up to the front of your mat. Once you get there, lift up halfway and stretch as long as you can from crown to tail. Even if it means softening your knees quite a bit, breathe. And then with an exhale, hang down. Now, this is a rag doll. You could straighten your knees if you'd like. And your belly, it will lift up into your spine. So you can create with your body the shape of the letter U, but upside down. And then just sway from side to side. And as you're breathing, you can be settling your gaze, your drishti. You can be organizing your feet, your foundation. And you can be inviting that the whole back side of your body, from the heels all the way up through and around to your eyebrows, it just starts opening up. Then press your feet down into the ground and come rolling one bone at a time up to standing till you can roll your shoulders open and unwind your neck. Then sweep your arms overhead, stretch up, and bring your hands into prayer position. Now select the intention for your practice today. Sometimes I just stay very simple. Can you not hear me, Ryan? And breathe. And then we'll do 3 ohms. Take a deep breath in. Deep breath in. Last one. Inhale, reach up. Fold to the floor as you exhale. Lift up halfway. High plank to low plank as you exhale. Then inhale, lift your chest, upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. 3 breaths here. Long, steady breaths out. 2 more. Breathe in. Breathe out. Last time, inhale. Exhale, bend your knees and jump. Halfway lift, flat back, and fold. Press down with your feet. Stand up. Stretch for the sky or the ceiling, then stretch back and fold to the floor. Halfway lift, move to the low plank. Inhale, upward facing dog, fill up. Exhale, downward facing dog. 3 breaths. Steady exhale. 2 more. And exhale. Last one, breathe in. On the exhale, bend your knees, jump. Half lift, forward fold. Press down and reach up. Lift up and look up. Fold to the floor. Halfway lift with a flat back, then hands down, chaturanga. Strong legs, upward facing dog. Move to downward facing dog. Now, while you're breathing, spread out your fingers and press each fingertip and each knuckle into your mat. Then on your last breath, fill up, bend your knees, and jump. Halfway lift, forward fold. Chair pose next. Sit back into your heels and reach. Fold to the floor. Halfway lift, move to the low plank. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Step your right foot forward and lunge. So a long stride, a deep lunge, reach up. Then hands to the floor, chaturanga. Up dog, downward facing dog. Left side, step and lunge. Anchor your back foot. I can't say that one enough. Then hands down, chaturanga. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog, and breathe. Every one of the 8 limbs of yoga are meant for us to get present, to awaken inside life as it's occurring right now. One more time, breathe in. On the exhale, bend your knees and jump. Halfway lift and forward fold. So chair pose, get present to your baby finger reaching and fold to the floor. Halfway lift, drop to the low plank with strong, powerful legs all the way through to the upward dog, to the downward facing dog. Now step your right foot forward and lunge and get present from your back ankle, stretching all the way up to your fingertips, then chaturanga. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog, left side step and lunge. Inhale, look up, reach up and stretch. Hands down, chaturanga. Up dog to downward facing dog. Breath by breath, foot pressing, finger reaching by body movement, putting our attention on what's actually happening brings us into the moment happening right now. One more time, breathe in. Exhale, bend your knees and jump. Halfway lift and fold. Chair pose, sit back and reach. Fold to the floor. Half lift, drop to the low plank. Up dog, down dog, right foot forward and lunge. Deep lunge, look up, reach. Enjoy the feeling of the pose, then hands down and chaturanga. Up dog, downward facing dog, left side step and lunge. Lift up and look up, breathe in, hands down, chaturanga. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. So if you're not present, then where are you? It could be anywhere, but it's in the thoughts, not in the what's happening right now. Take another breath in. Exhale, bend your knees and jump. Halfway lift, forward fold. Chair pose, sit and reach. Fold to the floor. Half lift, drop to the low plank. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog, right foot forward, deep lunge, big stretch, reach up, feel the pose. Hands down, chaturanga. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Now the left side, step, feet strong in the mat as you reach and try to touch the sky or ceiling, chaturanga. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Now it's not like not present's bad and present is good, but present is powerful. It's where you have access to what's actually going on and all of the tools you've developed and have into your back pocket of life. Raise your right leg into the air, bend your knee and flip the pose over, 2 feet on the floor. Get your feet set up and then take your body physically to the edge of the pose for you. Once you get there, just breathe. That's all there is then to do. Feel the experience of the air coming into your body and back out. Side plank. Bring your right hand to the mat, face the long left side of your mat, and stack your body up. And then when you're present and you're feeling what you feel, then you know whether you should modify or intensify the pose, like how your body is just right now and what it's needing today. Look up for the ceiling and reach, high plank to low plank. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Left leg in the air, bend your knee and flip it over. Keep your breath flowing and steady. Once you land, take yourself to your physical edge. Then with your flowing and steady breath, just be right here in the experience. Can't do that for yourself yet? Then put your concentration on something physical, your breath, your hand and feet pressing into the floor. I always go for the feeling of the stretching through my rib cage. Side plank next. Bring your left hand to the mat, face the long right side of your mat, stack your body up. You might even start to notice how when you press down with your hand that's on the floor and the edge of your foot that's on the floor, there's also a lifting up. And somehow, maybe in being present, you start to notice all the forces working together to make this pose seamless for you. One more breath, high plank to low. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog, right foot forward to the crescent lunge. So step, arms overhead, and set your gaze. Then once you've got all that in place, start working with what's showing up. I know balance can come and go, feet, how your hips are aligned, work with what's showing up. Then get yourself to the edge of the pose. So that's the place where there is sensation coursing through your body in all parts, not just one. And then it takes something to be here and be still inside of all that energy moving. So lunge down deep. Lift the pit of your belly and reach up high, and then start stretching back and keep your breath flowing. Deep, deep lunge and reach back. Then hands to prayer position and twist left elbow to your right knee and anchor it there. Once your elbow settles, press your elbow into your knee, but stretch from your back heel to the crown of your head. Like your whole body has been pulled apart from the heel to the crown of the head. You can open your arms. Bind your top arm around behind your back. If you have access to the full bind, take the full bind. It's easy not to take that. Then 2 more breaths. Last breath, stay and exhale. Then come up to the crescent lunge and set your gaze. Keep it. Open your body to warrior 2 and keep breathing. Now, as you're breathing, you can start working with the pose with your feet and your knees. Bend your front knee a lot. And then double check again on your back foot that it's really pressing down into the mat. You've got it. Good. Stretch your arms apart and tilt for the extended side angle. Reach for the floor and reach for the ceiling. You got it. Deepen your lunge a little bit. Now wrap your top arm around behind your back. Once it's behind your back, see if you then can reach under your front leg and hold hands with your back arm. You may not be able to fully open your chest up over your front leg, but just work with it. Hands held, lunge deep. Then if you can, lift your chest to the ceiling. You got it. 3 breaths here with wherever you're working the pose. You got it right there. Deep lunge, lift your chest for the last breath, then hands to the floor for chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Let the whole body open up. Downward facing dog. Left foot forward for crescent lunge. Arms overhead. You got it. Steady breathing. Ryan, did you lose your partner there? She had a little girl partner practicing with her for a second. Good. Allison, can you bend your front knee a little more and powerful back leg? That's it. Oh, there she is. Lift up and go back from this crescent lunge. The pit of the belly up to the chin and to the fingertips, reach. Then hands to prayer position and twist, elbow to your knee, right elbow, left knee. Once you get your elbow anchored here, press, fire up your back heel, and then chest away from your heel. You got it, Suzette. Keep stretching in these 2 directions. And in your back right ribs, you'll start to feel some stretching and some space as you breathe. You're welcome to open your arms if you'd like, or to take your arm around behind your back to bind this pose. Wherever you are, you've got 3 more breaths. You got it. 2 more. Powerful back leg, Jordan. You've got 1 more. Stay for the whole exhale. Come to the crescent lunge and set your gaze. Open your body to warrior two. And then take your feet long apart. Is it Madison? Maggie, go a little wider, Maggie. I know. So it seems like to kind of hedge your bets and go with a cautious stance would be an easier way to make it through class. But if you really go for it and get down into this lunge until both hips feel like they're in it, the pose will have a way of giving back and lighting up and making itself a little easier. Stretch your arms apart, tilt for the extended side angle, and steady breathing here. Bend your knee a lot. If you want to take the bind, wrap your top arm behind your back. Maybe you're holding on to a towel that would allow for you to hold hands more easily behind your left hip. Big lunge, elbow off of that front thigh, big lunge, and then just lift your chest to the ceiling. That's it, Mark. Deep lunge. Last breath, lift your chest, turn it to the ceiling, then hands to the floor for chaturanga. Upward facing dog. Downward facing dog. Now you're ready for a sigh, I'll bet. So take a deep breath in, open up your mouth, and just clear out. Take that another time. The sighs have a way of just moving stale energy. Last breath here. When you exhale, bend your knees, jump up to your hands. Half lift, forward fold. We'll take the chair twist to the right. So sit back, bring your hands to prayer. Keep your hips reaching way behind you and twist. Bring your elbow to your knee. You got it. Keep breathing. Once you get your elbow between your knees or outside of your right knee, then keep pulling your left hip back and stretching your left armpit forward. It's different than flaring your right ribs out. Sink those in. Yes, Suzette, you're feeling the difference? Keep stretching your long left rib cage. 2 more breaths. That's it. Breathe into your back ribs. Reach up to the chair pose and forward fold. So feet open, hip width distance. Hook your big toes with your middle and index fingers. Lift up halfway so you can stretch out your joints and your wrists and your elbows and your shoulders, and then fold down. You may need to bend your knees a bit to get your belly to sandwich to the fronts of your thighs. And then when you get yourself folded in half like that, maybe even just wrap your arms around behind your thighs and hug them. Fold it in half, belly sandwiched to your thighs. You can shake out your head and let it hang down heavy. And then just breathe. It may take concentrating on sinking your heels into the ground to anchor them, to allow you then to shift your hips a little more forward to your toes. And that maybe would light up the whole pose. One more breath. And then chair twist the other way. So sit back, then hands to prayer, and twist the opposite way of which you went the last time. Right elbow to the left knee, generally speaking. A lot of you are pretty experienced practitioners here in the room. You know to reach your hips back, to level out your 2 knees. And while your hips reach back, now it's your back right rib. Stretch that long as you can. That's it. And then breathe into it. As you breathe, see if you can expand and relax your back right rib cage. Stretch it open and breathe. Do one more breath here. Maybe it's a breath with a sigh. When you're complete, reach up to the chair pose and forward fold. That was good, Adam. Open your feet hip width distance and stand on your palms for gorilla pose. And shake out your head and let it hang. We're fortunate we have this practice that we can expand and contract. It can be varied in that way. But what we focus on is a similar set of poses each time, and then the principles around those poses. From that, we have this quality of going deep, being able to see changes and progress. Oh, I can feel that your hamstrings all the way up here in your skull. Crow pose is next. There's so many variations of crow pose. Pick the one that fits you. The standard is hands down and handstand hands, knees on the outside of your arms tilting forward. It could be a goddess squat, a classic crow pose. Crow can be done on your back even. Wherever you are, 3 more breaths. Every time you exhale, have a sense of pressing away and hugging in. And then with your last one, move to the chaturanga, the low push-up position. Upward facing dog, downward facing dog. Take a breath, have a sigh, and move up to your hands. Once you get there, lift up halfway and fold down. Now take your time, press into the ground, lift your arches, lift your belly, and come rolling up. Take your time. Then arms overhead. Right side eagle pose. Wrap your right arm, squat, wrap your right leg. This is usually the point in class where all of a sudden it starts kicking in for me and I start realizing this feels really good. Hopefully you're feeling that feeling where your upper back is starting to open or your lower back. Or maybe you're just feeling really powerful in your legs right now. Step out and stretch your arms overhead. Then left arm under, left leg over. Squat down and take this second side. Steady breathing. Remember, it's just a breathing exercise on the pranayama limb of the 8 limbs of yoga. So your body's in this crazy shape for a reason, for you to be able to discover something new about your breath, have an inquiry around your breathing. Step out. Let's do the right side again. Right arm under, right leg over. Your body's been here before this afternoon. It's ready to learn something even newer. So bring your steady breathing. I can see most of you have a really powerful drishti set. From the steady breathing, just stay curious and continue to discover. You can step out and switch sides. Left arm under, left leg over. Keep your breath flowing. Left arm under, left leg over. Steady breathing. Sometimes I'll really squeeze my legs together so I can sit my hips deep down and lift the crown of my head up high so the whole side of my torso stretches open. Take another breath and stretch out, step out, reach up. Hug your right knee into your chest and stand tall. Get to the point where your 2 sides of your pelvis become level. Then hold on to your right foot with your right hand or a strap, and extend your leg in front of you. And then just let your body adapt to this. Sometimes this leg stretch, yes, it's a lot of stretching in the back of the leg, the hamstrings, but sometimes it's the only thing that'll start to stretch my middle back on the right side. Can you feel that as you push out into your hand, but keep your right arm pulling back as much as it will, how your whole back right lower ribs are opening up? Toes a little bit higher. Hug your knee into your chest, airplane pose. So start by being open, stretching, and then from there, tilting. Steady breathing. As you press down with your foot that's on the floor, press it into the ground, you might start to notice that the pit of your belly lifts. See if you can power up your back leg even more, and it's fine to touch onto the wall, Allison. Let that be just a tool to help you find something new. Then hands to prayer position, get steady, half moon, left fingertips down, right arm in the air. From your center, whatever you can think of as the center, a lot of us think maybe about our belly button, all the way out to your fingertips and your toes reach. But from the center, so you can feel it radiating and being connected from the center to your fingertips, like you are drawing a line between 2 dots, 2 points. If you'd like, you can bend your knee and capture your ankle for the sugarcane pose. You're right there, Bridget. That's it. Last breath. You got it, Judy. Forward fold and hang. Ready to come up for the second side. Press down into your feet, come rolling up and set your gaze, then hug your left knee into your chest and stand tall. Good. Once you get yourself to the point where the 2 sides of your pelvis are level and you're standing tall, like you really feel yourself on top of your foot versus behind it, then hold on to your left foot with your left hand and extend your left knee. You can use a strap and breathe. And then find the spot in your own body that's interesting to you. Different from worrying about balancing, just find a spot that's interesting to you and breathe into that spot. Take your toes up just a little higher and hug your knee into your chest. Airplane pose on this side. Keep your drishti point settled. Now, the great thing about our practice is that however practice was up until this point doesn't have anything to do with how it will be. If you're finding maybe that your balance isn't quite there, there's no time like right now to just start breathing, setting your drishti, getting focused, becoming present into just one thing happening. Hands to prayer, press your palms together, half moon. And of course, then there are some days where it just doesn't come. But those days have great things to teach you too. Bend your top knee, catch your top ankle. Once you've got your top ankle for the sugar cone, strong pit of the belly, and then you just stretch in the pose. One more breath. 2 feet down and hang. Come all the way up to standing. We've got some back bends that our body could not be more ready for than it is right now. Right arm behind you, forearm and palm open. Bend your knee and hold your ankle from the inside. Flex your ankle. Left arm in the air and just line yourself up. So we wouldn't want to start with the knee to the side. We want it pointing straight down. Now stretch. You might even start to feel the stretching between your ribs here. Then kick forward and back. Right ribs and the left ribs stretching. Breathe into that space. Let your wrists stretch. The knuckles and the joints of your hands stretch. Keep on breathing as you reach away from your center point all the way to your extremities. In the pose, have a breath with a sigh. Now 3 more breaths. You got it. Steady exhales. For whatever's going on around you, 2 more. Now the last one. And then you can step out. So you might need more or less settling. If I feel like I can't balance, I'm not grounded that day, I'll just concentrate on my feet or pressing my palms. And then the left side. Left arm back, forearm open, hold your ankle from the inside. Right arm in the air. And start your kicking. Start your stretching. This pose to me is the best pose to practice in the summertime. It's the time that you can just get so much access to your body in this particular shape. Take yourself to the edge of your pose, or if you've fallen out, just come back in or use a wall. Yeah, if it's a wall day, put your fingertips on the walls. And then just a last breath and come on out. Now get settled. We're going to do a whole other set of this pose. You could take it into dancers with a strap or keep working it as a standing bow pose. Right side first. So right arm bone back, hold your ankle from the inside. Knees start down, pointing down, and then kick forward and back. Yeah, that's it, Beth, with your knees straight down and then kick straight back with it. Steady breathing. I focus a lot on my front hand. I turn my palm to my center line and just gently press like I'm pressing against something. You can press against me, yep. And I imagine the inside of my back knee and my arch, those 2 points pressing against a center line in the back. That oftentimes helps me just find the middle of the pose. Step out. Could you find that a little bit better? Other side, right arm back. Left arm in the air, and then stretch. Kick back and reach. Steady breathing. You got it. Oh, I threw you off. Sorry. No, you did fine. Just press real gentle. That's it. I always hope for this chance where my chest and the corresponding part of my upper back just open in this pose. Kick and reach to your maximum. 2 more breaths. Good work. Step out. At the front of your mat, tree pose, left foot down, right foot up, and press your palms together. Let yourself become settled and steady here by pressing your palms together. Watch the pattern of your breathing. Maybe you're breathing a little harder because you've been working a little harder in the balancing, and just start to slow it down through lengthening of your exhales. And in that way, through your breathing, control your physical experience. Now switch to the other side, right foot down, left foot up. You can take any hand position, but a lot of times I'll just work with my palms pressing to be able to gain steadiness, stillness, and presence. Okay, step out of the pose and come to the front of your mat if you're not already there. Then sweep your arms overhead and fold to the floor as you exhale. Halfway lift, drop to your low plank. Upward facing dog is next. Downward facing dog, right foot triangle. Step forward, land your feet and open your arms and keep on breathing. Once you get into the pose, start working with the pose however it is. Start with the four corners of your 2 feet and ensure that all of those corners are anchored into the ground beneath you. From there, it starts to tell you how your ankle joints and your knee joints and your hip joints will be. Now keep on breathing. There you go. Make length between the crease of your left hip and your right armpit, or right hip, right armpit. Keep stretching that body side, body long. Yes, like that. Tailbone back to the back of your mat, chest forward to the front of your mat, and a strong belly in the middle to hold it up. One more breath. Come on up to standing. That was good. Face the long left side of your mat and forward fold. Walk your hands in front of you with tent pole fingertips, palm arcing up. And once you get your tent pole fingertips set, take a breath and ease your hips back behind your heels. Create it that you've got the maximum stretch from your fingertips to your hip creases and all the points in between. We have an entire training called Adaptation that Debbie and her husband Nick lead that's all about this point-to-point stretching from your fingertips to your hip crease, and every single point in between is an opportunity in this pose. See what you see about every point in between. Some will be engaged in the stretch and others will be creeping away from it unknowingly, and others on purpose because the flexibility just won't have it quite yet. Discover what there is to be discovered here in your own body. Yeah, the legs are interesting. There's a point-to-point stretch from your sitting bones to your heels, but I find it's much more interesting down the sides of the torso. Then walk your hands back to the center line and come on up to standing and turn and face the front of your mat. We'll take the standing single leg forward fold, right foot forward, back foot behind you with some space in between, hands behind and lift your chest up high, and then fold. You'll want to work from the front foot being the steering wheel here. Drive your right hip back and keep building stretching from the center of the hamstrings and calves out to the edges. Each breath is a chance to reach deeper into the pose. Beth, bring some weight in your front leg. Yeah, keep on going. A little more, and you'll have to probably soften that knee a bit. Weight into the foot of the front. There. You got it. Feel the pose now. And if you want, you could just bring your hands to a tall block and get accustomed to what it feels like to really be tackling the center of the hamstrings. Twisting triangle, left fingertips onto the floor. Now, don't get too tempted to just lean to the left on your left fingertips and then conversely sway your hips to the right. We want to keep things more linear front and back. And when you do that, then you'll be able to stretch and create all this length through the left side body. And then breathe into it, as though you're engaged in a tug of war with your hips being pulled back the way that Suzette's are right now. And then she, in her part of the tug of war, will just keep reaching her chest toward the front of her mat across the room from where her hips are standing. Take one more breath in. On the exhale, sigh and sink and twist. Good. Hands to the floor. Downward facing. Oh, I heard your back crack there at the end. Downward facing dog. When you complete the vinyasa or get to the downward dog, take the left side triangle. Step forward. This is always this part where I slow down the pace of the practice a little bit because I just want all the stretching here. I need it for my lower back to feel good the rest of the day. Now, is there anything different or new for you in the pose right now? For everybody, press your front foot's big toe down. Keep breathing. Let the crease of your left hip keep deepening, deepening, and deepening while you pull the pit of your belly into your body and up toward your chin. Mark, you can open your feet way longer. Yes. Yes, Beth, you too. And then Beth, soften this front knee a little. Yeah, just that micro bend because it'll put you back into the center of the hamstrings again. Do you feel the difference? That's good. Come on up to standing. Face the long right side of your mat. Arms go behind you and interlace your hands. Lift your chest up high and forward fold. You'll want to attend to your feet that they are not turning out, but they're balanced and parallel to the sides of your mat. And fold and let your hands spill overhead. You could be holding a strap between your two hands. If you find that your hands get kind of stuck at your low back, a strap would be a really nice tool. Now, of course, you can feel the fronts of your shoulders stretching. And though, as you continue to let your hands fall overhead, see if you can become aware of all the opportunity in your back, lower ribs to breathe into those spaces. What happens when you get to put your attention there and breathe into those spaces? I'm going to give you your towel between your two hands. That's it. There. See if you can create a change in the space between your ribs and your back. Once I discovered I could do that by breathing, by putting myself in a shape and breathing, it's one of the things that makes me crave getting on my mat for my next practice again to have that space back. Come on up to standing, turn to face the front of your mat. You could do hands on the hips, reverse prayer, hands bound just like they were on the last side in the last pose, and forward fold. We're working to keep the weight balanced between the two legs. Rather than a bowing at the waist, we're working from the feet and moving the hips back. Little softness to your front knee, Mark, and let your hip fold more. You got it, Jordan? A little more weight in your front leg. There, you'll get your hamstrings more. Judy, a little more weight in your front leg too. Shift some weight into that foot. You'll feel it more in your hamstrings. Good, keep working with this pose and breathing. A split is always a great choice. That works well too, Allison. Allison, put the block under your left hip so you're not sitting over to the left, but you're up on top of the pose and in the center of it. Twisting triangle. Keep your feet. You'll want to drive the whole pose from your feet. Now watch this. Watch that you don't start throwing that hip to the side. Drive it straight back. Yes. And stretch the side of your body long. It can be a little weird to find it. That's it. Chest to the front of your space, hips to the back. This could be an interesting tool too. Feel the difference? You're able to locate it a little more. You can press against my arm. Stretch. Good. Breathe. Right in here, use twist. Back right ribs. Yes, you're feeling it now, aren't you? Take a little length, a little more twist. Breathe. Hands to the floor. Downward facing dog. Feels so good. Now come to a high plank and lower to your belly on the mat for locust pose, the first set. You have a lot of choices in the leg and the arm variations. You set up what feels good in your body today and then go for it. What are you going for? Well, what I usually look for in my own body is that I have a lot of length. I check out whether my belly is just like mush on the mat or if it's engaged and helping me to stretch. So many choices. You can be working your legs, the power that you need in your legs for a back bend. You could be working your upper back and your arms. Come on down. You can wiggle your hips from side to side. We'll take a second set so you have a chance to set it up the same way or a new way based on what you learned in your body. Set it up and go. Second set. Steady breathing, whatever you choose. Steady breathing. Hug. You got it. Now, can you make just one element of this pose a little bit easier? One more breath. Come on down. Wiggle your hips from side to side. We'll take floor bow. So bend your knees, reach back, and hold your ankles. From the outside, palms facing in. Knees only hip width distance. I can't emphasize that enough. If they go really wide, this pose is actually more harmful than it is good. Flex your feet. You can take it one side at a time. Kick back and reach up. If you're doing one side at a time, it can be really helpful to turn the toes under of the back foot and anchor it. The side that's got the toes anchored, you could be reaching back. You could have your arm resting on the ground forward or reaching forward. A lot of variations are possible. Come on down. Hips side to side, and we'll do the second set or the second side. So set it up and get ready. On your mark, get set, and go. Now, sometimes when my lower back is getting tight, my hips are getting tight, this one really bothers me in my knees. When I'm having a day like that, I'll use the straps. There's not so much fold in my knees. Come on down. Upward facing dog. Hands on the ground, lift your chest, get all that last minute stretch of the front of your torso. Downward facing dog. Camel pose, knees down. Hands in your imaginary back pockets to help keep your pelvis from tilting forward. We want the front of it lifting. From your knees up through your chin, you lift. And then if there's room to bring your hands to your heels, do that, but keep the lifting quality. From your knees up through every one of your ribs to your chest, to your chin, lift. You got it. The place where we usually sink is right in the front bottom ribs. So right in that spot, keep some lift. Right? Yeah, through there. You got it. Now, how will you get it there? By pulling in the pit of your belly. Yes, you feel the difference? You're doing it. Strong pit of the belly, and you'll get a little more lift in the back bottom ribs. Come on up out of this. Hands to the floor, downward facing dog. Let you have a chance to stretch your ribs long, your side waist long. And we'll go for a second set. It's nice for some of these poses to get the second round, a little breath. There are certain poses where taking it again or going then deeper is the course of events that would be prescribed. So second set. See if you've got access to something a little different now that you've got the warm-up of the first set. We know we need a lot of the pit of the belly for all bodies. That's a spot that we, generally speaking, usually forget, or if we remember, we go for it a little bit. But really, in the front low pelvis, hug your abdominal muscles into your body and lift them up to your chin and see if it makes your whole body lift. Get to the point where you have this expression, this opening across your chest, and breathe into that space. Breathe into the space of your chest, a little more pit of the belly, little more lift of the bottom ribs, and come on up out of it. Downward facing dog. Stretch out. And I know when we say stretch out, it's easy to feel the stretch out in your legs, but can you feel the stretch out all the way through your torso, like you're a slinky that's been pulled out long? Then jump through, sit down, and roll onto your back for the bridge pose. Bend your knees, ankles right underneath of your knees. Feet hip width distance, press down and come on up into the bridge. Get your shoulders tucked under your body. And you could hold hands or connect your hands via a strap under your body. Here's a chance to get your feet anchored, to get your arm bones on your back. If your arm bones are kind of hunched forward and on the front of your body, like they can be just kind of as an automatic default through the day, you won't be able to take your arms overhead in the next pose, the wheel pose. Tuck your chin and come on down, knees side to side. So we know in this pose, one of the things we're establishing is a broad chest through the corners of the shoulders. Okay, second set, press down and rise up. So I oftentimes will look for, well, how much do I have my shoulders on the mat here? Do I really have them anchored here? And then do I have some new quality of ease in the corners of my chest? So I know I'm going to need that. Once you have your shoulders, keep them. Get your hands set up on the floor for the first wheel pose, and then press down and rise up right into the wheel. Even if you're not used to going bridge in the wheel, give it a try. You have enough strength for this. Get up there, see what you can see, and then just come on down. Now you know something. Knees side to side. You know something more about your body. Let's put it into play in the next pose. Get set up, begin in the bridge so that you have the setup, and move on into the wheel. And then work with the wheel. What does that mean? I don't know. Press your hands and feet down. Sigh maybe a couple times. See if you can become at ease in the pose. And come on down out of it. Knees side to side. Let's go again. Set up your hands and feet. Press down and rise up. The repetition of just moving through it, in and out, that alone will start to open up some new space. And come on back down. Knees side to side. You've done 3 now. We're halfway there. Let's get set up. Hands, feet on the floor, press down, rise up. Get all the way up in the pose, take a sigh. Then breathe easy for 2 breaths. Come on down. So we have 2 more of these left. If you can do a wheel, do the wheel. If you know the best place for you to be is a bridge, then you of course work with the bridge. So let's get set up. Bridge or wheel, press down, rise up. We've got this one and one more. A lot of times when I get up there, I start to get curious about how I'm using my wrists, because that's one of those things I just am so disconnected from, and I don't realize I have wrists until my wrists hurt. So organize your wrists so they feel good in the pose. Come on down. Knees side to side, and we'll have one more. You ready for this one? So get set up. Last wheel pose. Wheel or bridge. All the way up into the pose. Give yourself 5 breaths with really thorough and complete exhale parts of the cycle. See if you can really elongate your exhale. Little sip of inhale, long exhale, and then you can tuck your chin and come on down when you're finished. Supta Baddha Konasana, so soles of your feet together and knees out. I think a lot of the first years of practicing are just like managing to get through it physically. And then if you stick with a similar practice, like where you get to come back and keep working on familiar things, then you can start to transition into subtleties like breath. And when you get to that, from what I know, is there's a whole new experience that opens up. Okay, dead bug pose. Hug your knees into your chest. You can rock from side to side. And then legs straight up in the air, flex your feet, curl up and reach to the foot side of your mat. So just curl up, back of your neck long, folding your ribs and reach past your legs to the mat in front of you. You've got it. So this box of space is sinking. Take a breath in, blow out through your mouth and sink the pit of your belly into your body. Do that again. Sink it in and keep it in. Now, every time we exhale, you'll be pulsing. Inhale, exhale, pulse and reach. That's it. Go 5 times. Tiny little pulses. You won't have to unwind. You'll just keep deepening your belly. When you finish, hug your knees into your chest. Next thing we'll do is we'll put your body off balance. One side will be working to pulse while the other side's working to keep you maintained and stable on the ground. So one leg straight up in the air, one leg in front of you. So not legs turning out. They've got to be really square, as though you were hugging. Just like I'm hugging Adam here, imagine someone's hugging at the arches of your feet and curl up. Now already you'll notice that this long leg, it has to be drawing back, while this standing up leg is anchoring you down. Breathe in and exhale, begin to pulse. Take 5, 4. You can always bend the long straight leg and rest your heel on the ground. Finish your last one and hug your knees into your chest. And then switch sides. You build an intelligent core this way. So we'll do the other side. Hug. You can hug my leg too with your foot. That's it, right there. 5 times. That's it. It might just be good just to hold this. And then you're just curling and reaching for 5. Yeah, 4. Press 3, 2, 1. Good work. Hug your knees into your... I know it's hard like that. Ab work is so much easier when there's a lot of rocking around. But when it's just about maintaining stability, the work is so deep in your body. Rock head to tail a few times and then through to downward facing dog. From downward facing dog, take right side pigeon pose. So right leg, bring your knee forward on the floor to your right wrist. Thigh parallel to the side of your mat, different from being swung out at an angle. Your back toes, you could point or turn them under like they are when we do push-ups. And as you're ready, you can fold. There could be a lot of sensation in the back of your right hip now, and that would be perfectly fine. We want to minimize any sensation in your right knee, though. See if you can put your concentration on your breathing here. Maybe a little sip of inhale, and then a long, steady 6 or 8 count exhale. We're working on putting together a workshop that's just about breathing. So many different breathing techniques you can do for different reasons. When you start to get your breath harnessed, you start to really see powerful results. Let's switch to the other side. Left leg forward, pigeon pose. Allow for your left hip to open up, your left lower back. We don't practice to get good at yoga because there's really not such a thing. We practice to discover. And not really even a discovery of from the last time I practiced as a comparison to this time I practiced. Different from that. A discovery not to get the answer. This is how the pose should be, how I should be. This is a good job. This is a bad job. We practice just to discover whatever there is to discover. Okay, sit on your left hip, swing your right leg around for seated single leg extensions. So a long right leg, a bent left leg. Hips elevated for a lot of bodies, a softness to the right knee, or support under the left knee if it's hanging, and fold over your long right leg. Left hand to the baby toe side of your foot and fold. So that exposes what's still tight, of course, in your leg, but in your back, in your ribs. Where do you feel this pose? Now breathe and feel what you feel as you breathe, how your breath changes and opens up your body. Give you access to freedom and mobility. All amazing results. I love taking my extra hand and resting it palm behind my back. It just seems to provide a really nice traction from my left hip to my right heel. Gives you a point-to-point stretch to put your attention on. Switch sides. Long left leg, bend your right leg. Right hand to your left baby toe. Maybe the back of your left hand to rest on your right back hip. And breathe. Such a simple pose, but yet so complex. So much to offer. One little tiny subtlety you could all notice is the outside ankle for many of us by default is stiff and tight. And no matter how much tugging we do, nothing changes there. Melt and sink and fold your outside ankle as much as you can. Okay, come on up. Two legs in front of you. Forward fold. Again, a chance to melt your outside ankles in so your feet just look like they're standing on a floor. Work with bent knees, whatever shows up in your body. And then again, discover in the back of your torso where there is an opportunity to breathe and discover something new. Come on up. Reverse tabletop. So lean back onto your hands so your fingers point towards your heels and roll your shoulders back. Then press down with your hands and feet and lift up. Sometimes these point-to-point stretches aren't just a straight line. They actually have some spiraling in your body. You might feel some of that spiraling from your wrist up to your shoulders right now if you trace the line of stretch, the sensation of stretch that you can experience. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, just stay in the pose and breathe, and maybe someday that's something you'll notice. Then sit your hips down. Let's get ready for fish pose. We're going to do it this way. Legs active, so your feet look like they're standing on a wall. Hands in a C shape, one hand around each side of your pelvis. Put your forearms on the ground. Press your heels away from you. Press your C-shaped hands into your hips, and your pelvis will become in a neutral shape. Then while you're pressing against your hips, stretch your chest out of your pelvis all the way to the head of your mat, and then press your elbows into the ground and lift your chest to the ceiling. What this gives us access to is that the whole side of the body is stretching and the chest expanding, different from us sinking again in our ribs. It's a lot of work to get out of the sinking in the ribs because it's such a pattern many of our bodies have. Then tuck your chin and relax down onto your flat back. Then you can roll your feet overhead for plow pose. Of course, flat on your back with your legs straight up in the air is an option, or any other inversion. I, generally speaking, don't miss the opportunity for the plow pose because I always want the stretch for my upper back, neck, and shoulders. You pick what's, though, best for you at this point in the practice. Wherever you take yourself to, ensure you have a foundation. In the plow and shoulder stand, it is the shoulders. And maybe you take a sigh to allow for wherever you're overexerting that there's ease. And then see what you see. What else is available or possible today, right now? And then start to work your way back out of it onto your flat back and hug your knees into your chest. Once you get onto your flat back with your knees hugging into your chest, we'll take a simple twist. So drop your knees to the left, look to the right. Let your body be really easy and take a breath in and have a sigh. Being able to twist, that's a range of our motion that goes without some attention. Then you end up being kind of an old man, kind of shifting on one hip and trying to look around your shoulder. But look at your body right now. You have so much movement. Switch to the other side. So we each come and we start wherever we are and work with whatever is available, and we create results. From there are results available for everyone. Come to the center and hug your knees into your chest. Even bring your forehead to your knees. Then take Supta Baddha Konasana, a pose to help you get your bones lined up and ready for Shavasana. Then as you're ready, you can start to set your Shavasana up. In the studio, you've got a cold eye towel near the top of your mat. Once you feel like your setup is pretty well organized, you can stretch your arms and legs out long. Once it feels set up well, take a breath in, open up your mouth, have a sigh, and let yourself just settle into the ground. Now, this is a peak pose of our sequence and this smaller sequence called deep rest. Allow for yourself to have rest from the activity of your brain. That what you instead have access to is an opportunity to be here and be still and present. Able to sense whatever there is to be sensed from where you are, and nothing needed to be done about it. You may get access to an incredible quality of freedom. Deepen your breath. In fact, fill your lungs, inhale, open up your mouth and sigh. With your next breath, wiggle and squeeze your toes and fingers, then hug your knees into your chest. Roll to your side and bring yourself up into a sitting position. Once you're able to sit tall, bring your hands into prayer position at the center of your chest and pause for a moment with your eyes closed and do an inventory, an inner scan, aware of your own inner climate in this moment. And from here, set an intention for the rest of your day. One time, let's chant Om together. Take a deep breath in. Bring your thumb knuckles to the center of your forehead. Inhale and exhale. Namaste. Good work. I acknowledge each one of you for showing up. It makes a big difference, not just for you, like you know, but for all the people around you in your life that interact with you throughout the day. And it's a big job to make sure you're the best person you can be all day long. So I honor you for showing up and doing that and letting me be right here with you. Thank you. Thanks for being here with us, Allison from home. Have a good day, everyone.